Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show for GoodCrowd.info today. And we're really fortunate to have the CEO of Mosaic, Dan Rosen. And Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you. Mosaic has really proven to be one of the most compelling and most interesting crowdfunding sites on the planet, certainly doing a lot of good, advancing the installation of solar. You've really caught two waves simultaneously, this big crowdfunding wave and the solar wave. You're just at a beautiful intersection of the economy now. Tell us a little bit about how things are going, riding those two waves.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the kind of macro trends that are happening and being at kind of the crosshairs of a few of them. And I would add, crowdfunding is one of them. Solar is the other one, and I think there's also a lot of things happening. But sort of in building the new financial ecosystem, a world kind of that's very different than the one that we've known for the past years in terms of finance, in terms of it being dominated by very big, massive global institutions, to real trend towards crowdsourcing and peer-to-peer marketplaces and just the efficiencies you get from leveraging technology and the internet. So, we're applying a lot of innovation, in terms of solar. The backbreaking labor of solar has happened over the past 30 years, and the prices have dropped 99% since it started. And so we wouldn't be able to have Mosaic without having had those innovations and that backbreaking work for all these years. And similarly with Lending Club and Prosper and Kickstarter and many of the innovations in crowdsourcing, there's been a lot of development and innovation in that area. So really kind of putting some of those pieces together, it turns out for solar energy, and I like to think about it as distributed generation, in a world where that was dominated by very large-scale infrastructure projects such as coal-fired power plants or natural gas projects or things like that. You had a very large project base to raise, money from big banks and the kind of that you would imagine. For distributed generation, and we're looking at a world pretty soon that will be dominated by solar energy, not just as a small part of the mix, but really as like the majority of the world's energy could come from our rooftops and different places and parking lots and things like that. And so it's a really big question. How are these types of distributed assets, how will they be financed? Knowing that the capital costs are the biggest part of it. And so you're seeing lots of really cool innovations happening in that space with yield codes and different types of things, and really you're seeing the capital markets form around it. And our kind of question that when we started Mosaic really was, how do we get as many people to be involved and benefit from this transition as possible? And sort of the frustration, if you will, if anyone has worked in trying to get climate policy or clean energy things done, it can be very, it's on a federal level at least, trying to get something done in Congress these days is probably nearly impossible for any issue, but really it's really bad for things like national catastrophes like climate change, and doing really big infrastructure projects like, 50 years ago we were really good potentially at things like the Apollo project and sending someone to the moon, but I don't think we could agree on something like that today. So crowdfunding is for us is sort of a tool, putting the tool in the hands of people to affect change and catalyze change. And there's many other ways that we can give tools and get people engaged in this transition. So it's a really exciting time to be working on building those tools and trying to get in the hands of as many people as possible.
So let's talk a little bit, Dan, about the new initiative you've just launched, the home loan product that includes the maintenance and operations contracts. Tell us a little bit about that program, how it works, and why people are finding that appealing.
Well, I think the appealing thing that people, the Mosaic is a marketplace, and we have two sides of our marketplace. You have people who are going solar, and people who are funding people to go solar. And the biggest challenge to date for going solar has been this upfront ticket size of anywhere between $10,000 and $80,000, $100,000. But the average system size is around $25,000 that we see on our marketplace. And so when you also then eventually add in storage and electric car charging and different things that are going to energy efficiency and things like that, you start to develop a pretty big upfront cost to develop going 100% clean energy. And so that upfront ticket, that capital expense, is a big barrier for a lot of people. And so if we make loans to help those people go solar and they can buy the system, then if you price the loan in such a way that their loan payment is actually with their new electricity bill, which will be substantially lower than their old electricity bill, that person will actually be saving money in most markets, depending on the cost of capital, depending on the cost of electricity from their current utility provider, and depending on the installation cost. But in many markets right now, it'll pencil out. So it's a great financial product for the borrower, for the homeowner who's going solar. It's also a wonderful investment product for people investing in these assets, because, and this is why you're seeing Goldman Sachs and the like put hundreds of millions of dollars to work. Warren Buffett has put over $7 billion or more, I think, at this point, into clean energy infrastructures, because there's an avoided cost for the customer, which is typically in capital markets is considered to be a very predictable asset, sort of like utilities, right? So many of these solar companies are sort of like a distributed generation utility, where they're providing energy as a service. And so our loan product is designed to help people go solar, and they can purchase the system and own the system, and it's packaged in this partnership with Enphase, which is a public company that is packaged with the operations and maintenance, which allows the homeowner to also sort of think of it as a hassle-free thing, because there is a power plant on their rooftop with, there's not many moving components, if any. There's expertise and customer service right around the corner, and that kind of goes in competition with the lease, which is the dominant source of financing solar today, which is packaged with performance guarantee and operations and maintenance as well, which has helped many people go solar. It's actually a wonderful financial product. The challenges with the lease have been that you don't own the system. So if you move your home or things like that, there are some complications with it. But it's a wonderful product. Zero down and pay as you go. And these pay as you go systems is a very prominent way of going solar right now, because it's also how we're used to experiencing from sort of a user behavior and design perspective. It's how we're used to paying for electricity. We're not used to paying it for all at once and then having it save money for 30 years. We're used to paying it monthly, right, our electricity bill. So it's sort of figuring its way into the design of how people are normally purchasing their electricity, and it's priced slightly lower, so they're saving, and they get to go solar. So it's a real win-win.
Let me drill down just a little bit with you, Dan. What kind of interest rates are the homeowners paying on this, typically?
Different interest rates for different products right now, but we have a 20-year loan, so it's a long loan. So that allows us to go longer and have a lower monthly payment. So it's a 4.99%. But it also depends on, we're also introducing risk-based pricing.
So 4.99% for 20 years, very low interest rate, really just above mortgage rates, barely, and yet you are financing a much smaller purchase. So the payments on that should be significantly lower than a typical electric bill, isn't that right?
That's right. Yeah, we typically see savings of 10% or more, if not more than that. Um, you want to be careful in the pricing of that and ensuring that. But yeah, I mean, I think most people, if they were given the opportunity to go solar for zero down and say to them that they're going to save money, would, because people like to save money and people generally like solar energy and the idea of powering their own home. It also increases the property value of their home. There's been numerous studies that have shown that. So,
Yeah.
especially when you own it as opposed to lease it. So, it's a wonderful proposition to a homeowner. One of the original ideas behind Mosaic was, well, a lot of people who would like to go solar can't because of shaded roofs, because they live in apartment buildings and all that. So the crowdfunding mechanism was a way for them to sort of develop they get solar on someone else's roof.
Now, because you're doing this as kind of a peer-to-peer thing rather than a consumer investing in a business, the rules against or that restrict and limit crowdfund investments seem like they don't apply. This can operate much like Prosper or Lending Club as a peer-to-peer lending exchange. Is that how it's working on Mosaic?
That's right. They do apply though, and you still have to be compliant with the SEC and FINRA and the states, and beyond on the security side in terms of issuing investment products, you also have to be compliant in terms of consumer lending, which is more onerous than commercial lending to protect people from bad actors.
So Dan, are you able to accept investments from ordinary, that is non-accredited investors, or are you only accepting investments at this point from accredited investors?
We are registered to offer investments into Californians, and then we also do have an accredited verification process for other places. We are Prosper and Lending Club did file a Form S1 that allows them to offer, I think, to over 30 states or something like that, and they are following the blue sky laws within those states. We'll eventually take some of that path, but it's a very costly regulatory process that a lot of lawyers are making money, and we're really, right now, we don't think capital is the constraining side of our marketplace. We believe that there's capital for these loans. The constraining side of the marketplace is in loan origination and getting our loan out there and making loans. So that's what we spend a lot of our time thinking about, is how we can make more loans. Once we become really constrained on the capital side, which again I don't think we will be for a while, we can look into expanding into a more robust regulatory structure. But we're also starting to see institutional investment interest, so groups that can put more money to work, which is something that we think is wonderful. We want to bring as much capital to the solar market as possible, and doing it through an online platform where you're automating a lot of these processes makes it really efficient, and you can take out and you can pass more of the economics onto the homeowner and to the investor. And so but the major focus is on crafting the loan product and making that more and more refined to meet the needs of more and more homeowners.
Now, the economics for a homeowner seem like they work pretty well in the entire lower 48 plus Hawaii, right? Geographically, solar power tends to work in all of those states, right? Or are there some states in the north where there isn't enough consistent sun year round to make it work? What's your take?
It would seem that would be true, but because so much of electricity rates are driven by incentives and policies and different utility markets, solar works in more than 17 states or more, like 20 states now probably. One of the most common perceptions of solar is it's got to be a sunny place. The highest concentrated and densely prolific solar market in the world is Germany, which gets as much solar as the Northwest in terms of solar insolation and radiation, which is what create solar electricity. And so, with the right policy regimes and the right incentive regimes, solar can work just about anywhere. Right now, from just a market perspective, it works in many places in the United States, and the solar industry is growing extremely fast. Subsequently, one of the wonderful growth stories of solar in the world is also in off-grid markets that are powered by diesel and kerosene and expensive, unpredictable power that right now is economically replaceable easily by solar. So the growth of solar right now is so fast and so tremendous that the capital that is available does not meet the capital that is required. And so you're going to see more and more things like crowdfunding and other kind of financial mechanisms. And these solar companies that are raising billions of dollars of solar of capital, where there's tremendous amounts of capital available. So you're going to see more and more of these types of financial products and mechanisms available to retail investors and institutions. And as the solar market grows, and it kind of has this virtuous cycle where as solar grows in terms of market share, it also drops in terms of the cost of solar, which makes it available in more markets. So those types of virtuous cycles or feedback loops in terms of an economic system are very powerful, and we've seen them over the last 4 years. The price of solar is just
That's great. Now, before we wrap up, Dan, I would like to invite you to tell people exactly how they should engage with Mosaic, who should engage with you, how they should engage, so that people who are listening now will have the opportunity to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, please visit our website at joinmosaic.com, and there's lots of ways to get involved. Go solar on your home. You can also see if you're qualified to check out other things that you could do on the site. And we're building a movement to proliferate solar energy and make it happen for many more people. So if that's interesting to folks, please check it out. It'd be really, the website is the major place where it is all happening.
Great. Well, again, Dan, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate you taking time out to explain kind of what's going on at Mosaic these days, and certainly congratulate you on the new program. Wish you success with that.
It was fun.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Okay.